We're going to move on, however, into our final discussion, and this is kind of a broader discussion. Like me and Brandon mentioned in our kind of pre-banter to the podcast, was football starting up. College football is starting up later this week, and it is Friday. We have Hawaii going up against Cal. It's going to be the first game of the season before we have to wait till next Thursday for the real start to the season. But we're going to be talking about some teams that are sleepers. Last week we gave you teams that can make the playoffs, guys who could win the Heisman, then our national championship picks. We've been going through our top 25 individual team previews the last month of time here on MVP. So now we're going to give you teams maybe we haven't talked about, some sleepers. And Brandon, I'm going to throw one out for you to talk about because this is your conference. Who I think is going to be a sleeper, the Auburn Tigers.
Yeah, the Auburn Tigers. And I think that people thought that last year too. I think that people thought, okay, Auburn could come out of the gate.
They got to get back. They got to get back.
I think that a lot of people really thought that they could come out and surprise some people last season, and they did. But because they weren't very good at all. I mean, they struggled. They struggled against some teams who they should not have struggled against. And I think one of them is quarterback. That's huge for them. They need to find an answer at quarterback. Jeremy Johnson stunk last year. He was horrible. He was really bad. And he was supposed to be a possible, and I don't know if he was in top 5, top 10 to begin the season or whatever, but he was a possible Heisman Trophy candidate, I think, at the beginning of the season. That's how much talking about a Heisman at the beginning of the season matters, because something will happen. It won't go like that, and you'll have someone completely different, and that person will be long out of the running. But they need to find the answer at quarterback, that's for sure. Junior college transfer John Franklin III could possibly be a guy who is trying to...
You know who that is, right? I know you haven't watched the Netflix series, but I showed you a little bit of it when you were over at my house a week or two ago. He's the guy from that the Eastern Mississippi documentary.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about now, yeah.
He's the guy that was at Florida State 2 years ago, then went to East Mississippi, and now he's at Auburn. He's the key. He is the key for this team because, and now I'm going to put a disclaimer on this. I'm only halfway through Last Chance U. Started watching it, watched the first 3 episodes, got super busy. Haven't been able to finish the last 3. However, my kind of take on John Franklin III, where I am right now, is he's either really good or he lets his mind get to him and he makes bonehead mistakes. That's why he's going to be the reason. He can either make this offense go or he could be the one to hinder it.
And then last year, too, for Auburn, they dismiss their top running back, Javon Robinson, and defensively they were 10th in yards allowed per play last season. So they have got to get better there, that's for sure. And on the ground, they've got Kerryon Johnson and Kerryon Johnson at running back, and then Carl Lawson on the defensive side, on the D end. And that's another thing that needs to really happen for them, the Auburn Tigers being them, and defense. Defense definitely is going to be key for them, especially getting better than what they were last year. They really have a horrible schedule, though. They're going to start off with Clemson, and then they go on the road to Ole Miss, Georgia, and Alabama, and that is screaming nightmare for Auburn. But if they can compete, win any of those games, I think that they win one of them. They win one of those games. I don't know who it's against, but I think they win one of them for sure. But this is a team that definitely could be a sleeper, is a sleeper. If they can just really kind of shore up some of those spots, those 3 spots that I talked about, quarterback, running back, and then defense, overall defense, they could be a team that kind of pops out of nowhere this year.
I'm going to ask you this question. I'm not going to ask you the question of, before you give me your sleeper, because I kind of put my sleeper onto you, I'm going to ask you one last question about Auburn. And it's not going to be who should start. It's just going to be, if you're Gus Malzahn, do you give the keys to, I'm not going to call it a Porsche because Alabama would be the Porsche. Do you give the keys to the Maserati? Maybe that's a little bit. Do you give the keys to this really nice car, a Toyota Highlander, to John Franklin?
I would, because I think that Jeremy Johnson, he just struggled so poorly last year, and I think that you want someone new. I think you want someone different, because Johnson really, really did not do well. Now, I think it would be, you throw sophomore Sean White in there as well, but I think it would be more Franklin versus Johnson. I don't know. I think Franklin has a chance to actually overtake Johnson, especially with the way that Johnson played last year. I mean, I hate to harp on it. I am doing it, but I was so unimpressed with him, and he let so many people down, including the hardcore Auburn fans. It was just not very good at all. He had a horrible performance, I think, overall last season.
Give me your sleeper. Who's one of your sleepers?
And now one of my
season?
sleepers, Penn State. And I said this a while back. I think that they're a team that is definitely trying to get better, trying to turn a corner. They're another team. We just got done talking about USC not too long ago. They're another team trying to turn the corner and get rid of some sanctions and things like that. That had come down against them, and they've been so muddled by the Jerry Sandusky and everything that had happened there for a couple of years. Now I think that they've gotten to the point where, hey, you know what? We're just trying to play football. We're a football team. Our past isn't in the past, and hopefully we have a bright future ahead. But Penn State, I think that we have a possible sleeper in them.
I'm going to take your Big Ten team and raise you another one. You ready for this one?
You're not even going to talk about them?
Well, I mean,
I talked about your fucking
fine.
team.
With Penn State, to me, they have to have a good season. This isn't are they going to be a sleeper? It's they have to, because if I'm Penn State and you don't have a good season, hey, James Franklin, get the fuck out of here. That's what I'm saying. With them, they have to have a good season. It's one of those things. I'm not really high on them. I don't think that they're going to do all too well in the Big Ten because, like I said, James Franklin hasn't done anything to improve this team. And also, they have to go up against Michigan State, Ohio State, Michigan, Iowa. I think they lose all those games. I mean, Michigan's in Ann Arbor. That's a loss. Yeah, you get Iowa, Ohio State, and Michigan State at home, but those teams are good enough to beat you in your home house. So, to me, it's one of those things where it's like, you're going to lose those 4 games. You're not going to a playoff. Is being a sleeper team is 6 wins a sleeper team? Would that be sleeper for Penn State?
No.
Because the team I was going to raise you, a 6-win season, is a sleeper.
Miami.
No, it's a Big Ten team. It's a Big Ten team. Come on. Same colors. Well, kind of. It's got orange in the color. Illinois, baby.
Gosh, you always want to talk about them.
Well, I haven't been able to talk about them in recent weeks, but to me, they're going to be, and I'm going to put this disclaimer on this sleeper. Are they going to be a playoff team?
No.
Are they going to be a double-digit win team? No. But if they get 6-6, that's being a sleeper in my mind with new head coach Lovie Smith. I think this is going to be a recharge season for Wes Lunt. I look at it and I go, Murray State, Western Michigan, Purdue, Rutgers, Minnesota, for sure wins. Then all you got to do is either beat Nebraska or Northwestern on the road. And I think that Lovie can get the boys playing for that last game in Northwestern to really take back Chicago and get a 6-6 season. That's a sleeper for Illinois. Give me another one for you.
Oh my gosh, Illinois! I'm telling you.
You knew I had to throw them in there sometime before we got to actual football.
How about this? Here's a team you love to jizz all over: Texas.
Okay. Oh, Texas!
There you go. Oh. There you go. He just had to change his pants.
This is a team where I feel like they got to make that first statement coming out the door, and just like we talked about Auburn, it all starts at the quarterback position. Who are you going to start at quarterback? I feel like right now there are 3 teams where it's like you got to name a quarterback sooner rather than later. That time is ticking. Number 1 is Notre Dame. Is it going to be Zaire? Is it going to be Kaiser? The second one is a team we already talked about in Auburn. Come on, Gus. You got to make that decision. It's like my grandmother used to say, either shit or get off the pot. That's what you got to do. And then the third one is Texas. Come on, Charlie. Give us your starting quarterback. Because like we talked about with USC, they made the decision. Hey, we're going to go with Brown. He's the guy. Now they can work with this guy, with this offense, getting ready for X game. a big game against Alabama. And both Texas and Notre Dame, I mean, the only thing helping Texas is that their first opponent's Notre Dame, and they haven't named a starter either.
I don't expect that we're going to see anything like we saw last year in the Texas-Notre Dame game, but I do still expect that Notre Dame wins that one. And Texas, can they be worse than last year? Yeah, probably. They could win no games, but I think that the Texas definitely is a sleeper. I think that they are a team that people will be hopefully pleasantly surprised with this year.
Well, and that's all about the Big 12 because I may be on the outside on this opinion, but I think Baylor's going to take a huge step back with everything that's happened. New head coach, they're going to take a huge step back. And really, it's just, I think Texas can overcome either Oklahoma State or TCU. They can overcome one of them at most. But are we going to see a Texas team that becomes a sleeper, wins the Big 12? Probably not. As of right now, I would say Oklahoma wins the Big 12. It's probably going to be a tie and not outright with Oklahoma State, then Texas, then TCU, or TCU Texas. That's how it's going to go. Those Texas teams fighting for third, the Oklahoma teams at the top, and I'm sorry, Kansas, you're still at the bottom. But another one I'm looking at is, you brought him up. You thought I was going to bring him up before, so let's talk about him right now. We've talked about him in the past. The Miami Hurricanes. And Mark Richt, it's interesting because this season he's got a quarterback in place, to a potential Heisman winning quarterback in place. I feel like this year is going to be hey, I'm going to prove that I could do the job that Al Golden couldn't, but then really hit that recruiting trail and bring in my guys to say, boom, here's my system for most likely 2019, because you bring in a recruit, you really don't see that next coach, maybe 2018, because you don't see that next coach's real impact until that third season, which would be the 2018 season. But he's got a good quarterback in place. He's got a potential Heisman winning quarterback in place. If you guys listen to the Onside Kick or the Primetime Podcast, you know that I love my quarterback position. I think they are the best and most important position on the football field. And I think Miami could be maybe first, but probably second in their side of the ACC. It's either them or North Carolina.
Well, Brad Kaya is one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and he'll probably prove that this year. I think they have a really good offense. Defense, however, that's the spot that will hold this team back. Mm-hmm. And that's the spot where if you're talking about laying some groundwork, you lay it this year, and then you improve on it next year, and then you're really good the third year. So I think that that's something that they will want to look for. But I think that this is a team that could definitely surprise in the ACC.
I'm going to throw one more out there, and this is because the article I'm looking at for some sleepers on SI.com, they have this team listed as a sleeper. I think this team's going to be more of a dud this year. I want to get your opinion on it. The Aggies from Texas A&M. I think they're going to be a dud.
Oh, they're a team that I've gone back and forth with, and I'm just not sure with them. I'll be honest with you. I'm just not sure with Texas A&M because you almost think, yes, could they be a sleeper? Absolutely. But I think that's probably all that they are because just they've had some definite questions, around a lot of the different things. But with that team, honestly, they are a team that has me just scratching my head because their quarterbacks seem to want to leave them all the time. And they can never stick with someone consistent. And I don't know if they have, Trevor Knight is going to be their guy quarterback. Maybe.
He's a transfer.
I don't know if they're going to have enough overall to take on a team like an Alabama, take on a team like a Clemson or, an Ole Miss or anything like that. I don't know if they're going to have the wherewithal to withstand that. But, we'll definitely see. They're going to see UCLA, Auburn, Arkansas, and Tennessee, and that's going to be a really interesting stretch of games for them. which, it could be tough. But Texas A&M, I think out of a lot of the teams that we talked about outside of Illinois, who we know they're not going to be that good because
I just wanted to bring them up.
They weren't good. They weren't that good. But now Lovie Smith has them, so he's going to try and change some things. But I don't think they're good enough to actually get them into the discussion of, okay, here they come.
They'll be going out for ice cream after games.
I think that'll be next year. Not for the ice cream. The ice cream's always going to happen. It should.
Well, but Rex Grossman always got ice cream after games.
You could tell he sucked. But I think that next year for Illinois, I think that's when we start talking about them.
It's okay, Wes. You can go out there. You can get all the ice cream you want.
But I think for Texas A&M, this is a team more where you're kind of like, okay, what's going on this year? And Kevin Sumlin, his ass is on the hottest seat.
Well, and before we wrap this up, two things. Number one, let me know what you thought of my Lovie Smith impersonation. I know it's not the best, but I've been working on it for a while now. And before we wrap up shop here, Brandon, I don't think we did this last week because we were all hyped up about making predictions and Ricky giving the kiss of death, but your 2-minute, or I guess we could just call it your pop culture minute, but it's not really a minute. It's just Brandon talking about something that's not college football. What do you got for us today?
So here's one funny meme, and folks, I hope you've seen it. It is a picture of Ryan Lochte. It's from Esquire. It's a picture of Ryan Lochte. He's in a Speedo, and it says, it's Speedo, : it supports a lot of dicks, but it has its limits. And that was it. So Ryan Lochte, you dumb fuck, because why are you lying about getting robbed? And it just completely backfired on you. What was really the point of that one, my man? What was really the point? So now Speedo has dropped you, and so has something else. Another big name company has dropped him as well. So Ryan Lochte, you represented America well for a while, and then you went and became a dumbass. That's all I got.
Well, and that's going to do it for the Primetime Podcast. Let us know down below in the comment section what you thought about anything we talked about today. Brandon's Pop Culture Minute on Ryan Lochte, not playoff sleepers, just general sleepers for college football. Max Brown being the quarterback at USC, and then the whole situation going down with Notre Dame and their suspensions. Let us know down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Blog Talk Radio, I want to thank you guys for checking out the podcast. Make sure to hit that follow button and hit us up on iTunes to follow the Primetime Podcast on iTunes. And you can also save the URL, blogtalkradio.com/Primetime Podcast. I almost threw the in there, but it's just Primetime Podcast. If you're on YouTube, hit that like and subscribe button. And remember, if you're on SoundCloud, as of October 1st, we are going to be no longer on SoundCloud, just on Blog Talk Radio. That's going to do it for the Primetime Podcast this week. I want to thank you guys for listening. For Brandon and myself, have a good day, everybody.
Thank you for listening to this MVP podcast. Follow us on Twitter @MostValuablePod for more great podcasts.